Hey, welcome World Entertainment, and as you know, Black Panther 3 is actually on the way, and Ryan Coogler is coming back to direct it, and I believe he's co-writing it as well. But he's now talking a bit about why he's coming back to make this third movie. He's also touched a little bit on Denzel Washington in the movie, although he's playing a little more coy on that one. But he also talks about what he wanted for the very first Black Panther movie, which Sony shut down, which was he wanted Kraven the Hunter to be in the first Black Panther movie. But let's dive into this. Now, the one thing you will find out in this is when he gets asked about coming back for Black Panther 3, the majority of what he says is actually about the other two Black Panthers, especially the second movie. But he contradicts himself as well, which is interesting because it's like, did you not hear what you just said to what you're saying now? You'll see. So it says, we know that Black Panther 3 is filmmaker Ryan Coogler's next movie, and it's been widely reported that the trequel will kick off the post-Avengers Secret Wars MCU in February 2028. Which I also think that's funny that this is the thing to kick off the post-Secret Wars end of things, when they said the focus would shift to X-Men. So I think that's interesting. So Black Panther was released in 2018 to widespread critical acclaim and a massive 1.3 billion worldwide. The sequel, Black Panther Wakanda Forever, grossed 859 million worldwide in 2022 and was similarly considered a success in the post-COVID landscape for superhero movies. Except when you took in what it actually cost to make, the reshoots they did, the marketing they did and stuff, it either didn't break even or it just about broke even. So it made next to nothing, if anything at all. Not to mention, to go from a $1.3 billion movie down to below 900, like barely over 850. Yeah, that's not good, and you can't really look at that and say that was on the right track. So Coogler has found heaps of success outside of the MCU with movies like Creed and Sinners, and due to the challenges that came with making a sequel to Chadwick Boseman's passing, many have questioned why the writer and director would return to the Black Panther franchise. And he does talk a bit as well about like he was devastated with Chadwick Boseman's passing and stuff, which that makes sense. He doesn't so much talk about it in this part, but in this whole interview he did talk about that. So in the latest episode of the Happy Sad Confused podcast, Josh Horowitz asked Coogler what he's setting out to prove with the upcoming Black Panther 3. Now that's the question. What is he looking to prove with Black Panther 3? Now, the majority of this answer is about Black Panther Wakanda Forever, but he also contradicts himself. So remember that, the question, what are you setting out to prove? He says this, I'm not making movies to prove anything. I'm telling stories that I want to tell, that I'm obsessed with, that I feel the burning desire to do. Black Panther 3 is a movie that I'm incredibly excited about. That's really the truth of it. The opportunity to prove things to myself or prove things about the marketplace now, absolutely. So, there's the first part of the contradiction. What are you setting out to prove? I'm not out to prove anything. And then he says the opportunity to prove things to myself and to the marketplace, absolutely. I did enjoy making a movie that was essentially about powerful black women who were grappling with grief while trying to do incredibly important jobs, and also starring Indigenous American people. I have a good time proving that a movie could make 800 million, absolutely. It brought me great joy to prove that, but that's not why I was making it. So again, you're hit, by the way, you just hear all the woke shit in that answer with Black Panther 2. The indigenous people and black female power, yeah, enduring grief and all this crap. But you see, I'm not out to prove anything. What are you making this to prove? Nothing. And then everything he's talking about is I've prove that it could do this. I proved that it could do that. So I made it to prove that it could do these things. You contradicted yourself massively. But he continued saying, I was making it because I had a story that I was obsessed with. I had an opportunity to do things. I learned how to swim from that movie, bro. I've been terrified of the water. I got to live my best James Cameron life. I'm 20 feet in the tank with a bunch of black and Mexican folks swimming around. That was awesome. I did get a chance to move through an insatiable human emotion of grief, and I get to tell that story to my kids. I got Black Panther 3 on my heart. From the outside looking in, you might say, man, why is this dude making another one of those? That's totally fine. That's totally a question that makes sense. I don't deny that. It's my job as a filmmaker to show why. It's my job to answer that question. So Vance's response to just being simply asked, what are you setting out to prove by making Black Panther 3? And then, of course, he went through all the crap where he kind of, contradicted himself. I'm not out to prove anything except that I was able to prove to myself and to others and to the marketplace that these movies could make this money and that I could make this work and do this with these people. And it's like, wow, dude, you really just didn't hear yourself. So Oscar winner Denzel Washington has already confirmed that he will star in Black Panther 3, but Coogler continues playing coy when it came to his plans for the actor in the MCU. So this is what he said regarding Denzel Washington, which was, out of all the 10 billion people on the planet, however many billion we are, I'm going to be the happiest one, bro. I'm going to try to write him a good part. So that's all he says about Denzel Washington. And remember, Denzel Washington is the one who let this all out of the bag that, number one, he was going to be in Black Panther 3. Number two, that Ryan Coogler was writing and directing Black Panther 3. And 3, that there was a Black Panther 3. Because you remember, I think it was during the Equalizer, ironically Equalizer 3, press tour, that he let that slip. I think it was then. But then it came to the whole thing about who the villain was meant to be in the original movie. So they're kind of saying like, hey, is it true that you were trying to do this and do that and stuff like that with this? And it ended up when he came on board, this is what he says about wanting to use Craven, but who was already in place, which is also interesting because think of it, they brought him on board, right, to direct and write the first Black Panther movie, and yet they already had the villains in place. So this is what he said about using Craven. No, Michael B. Jordan was always going to be Killmonger. When I took the job, Joe Robert Cole, who's my co-writer on both the Panthers, he had been working with Marvel and they had a line. So when I showed up, it was like, hey, we have our villains. Our villains are Claw and Eric Killmonger. That had been decided upon. So right there, before I go on, you can see where he was brought in to write and direct this thing, but they already had what the villains were in place for it. But he said this, the outline of villains was Claw and Killmonger, but they weren't sure. Claw felt slightly modular to them, and obviously it was the great Andy Serkis. So I'm hyped to work with him. I wanted to base it on the Christopher Priest run of Panther. And his run starts with Panther and Craven in the kitchen. That's the first thing. It's Ross, Panther, and Craven fighting in the kitchen. So I'm a big Spider-Man fan, especially Spider-Man the animated series. Craven is in that. He's also great in the books. I was like, yo, can I have Craven in the movie? They were like, we don't think so, but let us check. So they hit Sony, and Sony was like, absolutely not. They came back to me like, yo, we can't do it. So I was like, okay. So it's interesting that Sony didn't just say no to them. They were like, absolutely not. And keep in mind, at that stage, they had zero plans to make a Craven movie. So It's not like they were saving him for doing that. But the idea that he wanted to use these characters, and that shows you kind of where they were handcuffed with a lot of these things, that, oh, I love this character with Black Panther. Can we use that? And it's like, no, that's a Sony character. Oh. And of course, back at that stage, the whole deal with Fox wouldn't have been done. So there could have been other characters that they would have gone, hey, can we use this character? And they would probably been told, no, because that's Fox's. So I just, the most interesting part about that, I find, is the fact that he was brought on to write and direct this thing. So obviously he was going to come up with the story, but the villains were already decided upon. Marvel, Kevin Feige, all the rest already had in place who the villains were. So you're kind of handcuffing your creatives. And yeah, that's a weird thing. As for him coming back to do Black Panther 3, it is his next movie, but I just think his reasoning for doing it doesn't sound all that natural, to be honest with you. It does sound like he has something to prove, possibly to himself, and with basically, the downward trend of Marvel and what Black Panther 2 did compared to the first one, he's probably out to try and prove that, oh, the first Black Panther wasn't a one-hit wonder. We can absolutely make another billion. I don't think lightning is going to strike twice, and I definitely don't think Black Panther 3 is going to interest anybody, especially after that second movie. And if they immediately go and replace, what's her name, Shuri, as Black Panther, because the rumor is still that it's going to be T'Challa's son that comes in, an older version of the son that comes in and takes over. Yeah, you're going to get the same backlash to that announcement that you're getting already to Steve Rogers coming back for Doomsday. So, good luck to them, because by God are they going to need it. What do you guys think? Do you think he is doing it just to prove something? Do you think he could and should have used Kraven? What do you think about all of this? Let me know in the comments. And with that, I shall leave it there for this one. So do like and share and subscribe and all that good stuff. Cheers, and I'll catch you in the next one.